Fasten your seatbelt. I am taking you for the ride of your life. I'm going to show you what this car can really do. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Hang on.
Okay.
Here we go.
Hold on to your butts.
Go get him, kid.
It might be a tumor.
It's not a tumor. Not a tumor at all.
As if you're going to ask me. So you can go ahead and ask me what you're going to ask me. And my natural response could be to get offended.
Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
All right.
You're listening to the 30-something movie podcast. One movie each week, 30 years in the making. That's right, you're listening to the 30-something movie podcast. It's episode number 287. We are talking mermaids this time around, and not the kind that you know, flop around in the ocean and you know, not the ones that lose, I was about to say, not the ones that sing, but they do sing in this movie, so lose their voices and have the evil, like, octopus lady try to steal your soul and all that fun stuff. But different kind of mermaids. No evil octopus ladies in this one, as far as I know.
Didn't see any.
Unless there was a deleted scene or an alternate ending that we completely missed, and then that'd be interesting.
Yeah, that would take a darker turn.
Didn't wasn't there like a deleted scene in the Goonies that had like a giant octopus monster?
There is something, isn't there? Some big thing that didn't make it to print, and
yeah.
I think I saw it sometime, and they made the right choice.
Okay, all right. Well, so maybe they did that with this one too. Maybe there's a deleted scene somewhere where there's a giant octopus monster, and
well, in an alternate universe, you know,
and that's what pulls Christina Ricci into the water. And
exactly, in an alternate universe, it is the Little Mermaids, and yeah,
and they're all daughters of Triton, and they all have goatees.
Sure.
Yeah. In alternate universes, aren't you supposed to have a goatee in every alternate universe?
It's true. Goatee and a sash, right?
Okay.
I think,
yeah, that's true.
Sashes were big.
No, your colors are reversed, and you have a sash. And all right, so be warned: if you see somebody wearing a sash, they are from the alternate universe. But we are not from the alternate universe. We're from this universe, and this is a much kinder, friendlier universe, which is why I've got Bo with me tonight. Bo, how are you doing?
I'm well, John, and yourself?
I'm doing okay. Doing all right. We're here talking movies. So as we've said before, anytime we're talking movies, we're probably doing pretty good.
Exactly.
So very, very quickly, before we get going with our movie tonight, we have, spoiler alert, we spoil freely, so just be warned. If you have not left us an iTunes review, please do that, just so we can find out what you love about the show, and if there's anything you don't love about the show, we'd like to hear that too, so we're always looking to improve.
I'd like to point out we spoil expensively too, not just freely.
And visit our website, 30podcast.com. That's got all the different ways you can get in touch with us, voicemail line, all that fun stuff. So that is where all that stuff is. We are recording some of these episodes a little out of order and way ahead of time. But so some of our movie news here may not be timely by the time people hear it. But when will then be now is the most important thing to think about. So I did see something the other day that the new Clue movie, did you see before that they're making a Clue remake?
I did not. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Okay. So they have, and I just saw this either today or yesterday, and it is, let's see, Ryan Reynolds is going to be in the new Clue movie. And they got, who was it? It was one of the, it was the director of Muppets. So director of one of the more recent Muppet movies, James Bobbin is his name.
Interesting.
And he is going to be directing the Clue movie. So,
and the Swedish Chef is going to play Colonel Mustard.
That could be fun.
Yeah, a little something different.
That could be fun. And 2 + 1 + birdie her to burn to her. I would actually, you know what, that whole scene where he has to try to explain who killed who and how it all worked out. I just want the Swedish Chef to go that entire scene.
Yes.
The entire explanation should be in Swedish.
And
then he's running back and forth between all the different rooms. Yeah.
Yes.
You know what? Can we just make a Clue Muppet movie?
Sure. The Muppets take a clue. I don't understand why this hasn't been done.
I know. Muppets get a clue.
Ooh, better.
There we go.
Better.
Done. And during the entire thing, you just have Statler and Waldorf just sitting in a corner somewhere commenting on the whole movie.
Yes.
I'm all for this. I think we should do it.
I'm in.
I also want, I'm blanking out, Beaker. Beaker could be, I don't know, Beaker could be the foul-mouthed character that keeps getting meeped.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. I don't know. I think this all works out really well. All right. Well, I don't know that I have too much other movie news. Did you have anything else you'd seen recently?
No, other than enjoying the resurgence of Star Trek and Star Trek Picard.
There you go. I still have not watched beyond the first episode, so I need to get myself caught up.
Mm-hmm.
We've been watching The Expanse, so we've kind of been going through that, and
that is I suppose that's an okay answer.
Okay. All right. It's just too much good stuff out there. So
I would agree.
And we gotta finish through one of these things because pretty soon Outlander's coming back, and like all the other stuff we watch it's just too much stuff. All right. Well, this time around, the movie we're looking at is called Mermaids. It is released on the 14th of December, 1990. It was rated PG-13 with a runtime of 1 hour and 50 minutes. Directed by Richard Benjamin, who also did the 1973 movie Westworld. Oddly enough, the same Westworld as the HBO series. And also did a movie called Deconstructing Harry. Producers on this one were Lauren Lloyd, Wallace Nocita, Patrick Palmer. Lloyd did Freddy Got Fingered. Nocita did 6 Days, 7 Nights. And Palmer did Moonstruck and Blade 2, because those two movies are exactly like each other.
Yes, they are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Moonstruck, lots of vampires in Moonstruck. Mm-hmm. And Cher's part in Blade 2 I thought was wonderful.
Yes, the hair just it brought the movie together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see. The writers for this one were Patty Dan, who did the novel, and June Roberts, who did the screenplay. Dan, Mermaids was her only credit, and Roberts did a movie called All the Queen's Men. Cinematography by Howard Atherton, who also did Fatal Attraction, Black Rain, and Bad Boys. Music by Jack Nietzsche, who died in 2000, did the music for Starman, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and Stand By Me. Budget on this one was $20 million, box office $20 million, and I think $10 million of that was for Cher's hair.
At least.
Mm-hmm. Box office was $35.4 million. Also, a good portion of that probably Cher's hair. Reviews for this one: Rotten Tomatoes critics gave it a 73%, audience gives it a 70%, IMDb gives it a 67, Letterboxd gives it a 70, and CinemaScore gives it a B. So average all that out, and we're kind of like sitting around 70% for most of these reviews.
I could see that.
Starring Cher as Mrs. Flax. She was in Mask and Moonstruck. Bob Hoskins, who died in 2014, was Lou Lansky. He was in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Super Mario Brothers, and Hook. Winona Ryder was Charlotte Flax. She was in Heathers, Little Women, and Edward Scissorhands. Michael Schofling was Joe. He was in 16 Candles and Vision Quest. Christina Ricci was Kate Flax. This was, I believe, her first movie that she was in. She was in The Addams Family and Black Snake Moan. And then Jan Miner died in 2004. She was Mother Superior. She was in a movie called Lenny and a movie called The Swimmer. Here is the trailer, and we'll be back in just a second.
Ooh, we're gonna play my favorite game. What's the worst weather in the world? Oh, now don't tell me. Let me guess. Who could it be? Could it be me?
If you wanna be having mother as a your life.
Charlotte's mother is many things.
Charlotte, we're Jewish.
Normal isn't one of them.
Okay, how do I look? Like a woman about to go forth in sin.
Oh, good. Exactly the look I was hoping for.
That's how Rachel liked it.
1, 2, 3.
And that's why Charlotte didn't.
Sometimes I feel like you're the child and I'm the grown-up.
What is this?
Cheese ball pick-me-ups, and for dessert, marshmallow kabobs. Don't do anything I wouldn't do.
I'm trying not to drive too fast.
Well, after my mom, nothing seems fast.
They have almost nothing in common.
Or don't do anything I would. Are you coming home with me?
Another night.
But there's one thing they do share. Men.
You kissed him? How could you do that?
Well, if I were you, Charlotte, I'd go easy. I know that you're planning a celibate life, but with half my chromosomes, I think that might be tough.
Has your mother ever talked to you about sex?
Oh, yeah.
I can get pregnant if I hang my clothes next to a man's suit.
We talk about everything. She's a wonderful mother.
Why did you think you were pregnant? You're still a virgin.
Trust me, I know about these things.
She's doing this because she has a problem. And she's probably too frightened to talk to you about.
Why would she be frightened?
Like mother, like daughter.
Maybe your life works for you, but it doesn't work for me. And I want to stay.
And do what?
Finish high school.
Great start. What's your major, town tramp?
No, Mom, the town already has one.
Cher.
I don't always know what I'm doing. It's not like you and your sister came with a book of instructions.
Bob Hoskins.
You're a hell of a woman, Rachel.
I know.
Winona Ryder.
Mary O'Brien, she dances around naked, screaming about her boyfriend's quivering loins. Shut up, Charlotte. Shut up.
Mermaids.
I can do it by my mermaid watch. I'm going to get into my mermaid car and hit the mermaid road.
And get the mermaid out of here.
All right. I'll be fresh for the party.
All right, we're back. Again, questions, as always, adapted from the book Focus, The Art and Soul of Cinema by Tony Watkins. Question number one, how we always start things off. Bo, how does this movie make you feel? Let me start with this, though, too. Is this a movie that you had seen before? And how does this movie make you feel?
I don't think I'd seen it before, but there were times when I felt like I knew what was coming. So either I've seen bits and pieces of it, or it became predictable at some point. But I enjoyed it. It made me feel amused. I was, amused, I guess. It amused me, yes.
Okay.
How about you?
Yeah, this is one that I've seen several times. I remember, but not for a while. I mean, this is one that I had seen several times growing up. You know what? I feel like we would have seen this not too long after it would have come out on video, because I recall being fairly young seeing this, probably about maybe 10 or 11, which would have been about the right time for this. I think this came out when I was 9 or 10. So probably as soon as it came out on video, we rented it one time. But I remember we must have either had it on video, maybe we had recorded it off of TV somewhere, because I remember watching this multiple times growing up. So yeah, I mean, this is one every once in a while we would pull this movie out and watch it. And it's just, how does it make me feel? It's a fun movie. It's a fun movie. It definitely has some serious points to it as you get later on in the film, but it's just kind of a fun look at family, albeit a slightly dysfunctional family, and or just a different family, than your typical two parents and multiple kids and all that other stuff. But yeah, just kind of, there are plenty of laugh out loud moments in this movie. It's a heartwarming movie. It's all the good stuff you want a family movie to be. And it's got a great soundtrack. So
it really does have a good soundtrack, doesn't it?
Yeah. That was Pat's comment. Pat knew he probably wasn't going to be able to make it to record with us tonight for this movie. And he said, both movies are really fun, but he said the Mermaids soundtrack was awesome.
Yeah.
So
I often talk about decades, how there's carryover, like 1990 is really the end of the 80s. It's not actually the 90s if you want to look at it stylistically. It takes us a couple of years to get into what I consider to be 90s stylistically, as far as film, as far as art in general, film, music. It takes a little while to get out of the 80s, and I am going to miss the era of the jukebox soundtrack. That's been one of the best parts of what we've been doing, is looking back at these movies and back when soundtracks were popular music more than they are today.
Yeah.
And this was just reminded me of it. I was like, oh, I enjoy that. It's fun. Yeah,
and I think, too, one of the interesting things, since we're talking about the music of it, I think one of the interesting bits, too, is a lot of the movie takes place in 1963. Mm-hmm. At least that's where it starts. And you have you've got a lot of the kind of 50s and 60s music playing in there, and which is interesting because that's around the same time. I'm trying to remember when Sonny and Cher came out. But when they were mid 60s, weren't they?
Actually, on that page right now, the first
like 65, 64
is the first single they have logged.
Okay.
I'm looking for a quick album release date. Yeah, 65 is pretty much
okay
where they're at.
Yeah, so I mean that's around the time that they would have been starting their act as well. So I think that's kind of a fun, and maybe that's what drew her to the movie, is that it takes place during a time period that is when she was young, when she was coming up in the world, and getting her start going. But that was one of the things I really liked about the movie was the soundtrack. It had a very strong, very fun soundtrack, and I would say, even if you didn't know all the words to the songs, you at least recognized 95% of the songs that were played in this movie.
Oh yeah, it was crazy, one after another. Like, oh look, that's fun.
Yeah. So so for me, just a overall feeling of this one, fun movie. So let's dig a little deeper into that. What is it about this movie that made it fun? So if you enjoyed this movie, and it didn't sound like, so your reaction was not, oh, I love this movie, this was amazing, this was, it was fun. So what was it that made it fun?
I think
and
it
maybe
was
not awesome.
The just complete craziness of Mrs. Oh gosh, I'm going to get the character name wrong. That's really bad.
Flax.
Flax, thank you.
Yeah.
I was going to say Clax, and I'm like, I know that's not right. The sheer silliness of her daughter telling the story, and she opens up calling her Mrs. Flax. She does not call her mom in her retrospective. Did you get the feeling, slightly sidebar, how old do you think the voiceover character is supposed to be? I know they used the same actress and they used her voice. But do you think this is supposed to be her telling this recent, or is this like her looking back at her childhood telling this story?
My guess is that the voice that's telling the story is her at the end of the movie.
Okay.
That you're not that far removed, because I think her tense even changes when she gets to the point where they're in the kitchen later on, and she says, I think she says, I don't know the exact wording, but I feel like when she's looking at the book of Greek mythology, I think she even says, my new obsession is Greek mythology.
Aha. See, as I was watching it, I was looking for that and I missed it.
Yeah. I don't quote me on that, but I think
trust me, as an English teacher, I imagine you caught the tense before I did.
Yeah.
I'm not, I will never presume to say that I caught the tense before.
Yeah. But I think that's what it was. So I always thought that the narrator voice, Winona Ryder's narrator voice, Charlotte's narrator voice, is her at the end of the movie. That it's not like a Wonder Years thing where it's
right
20 or so years later.
Right. So I think it just sets a tone, because you open up and I think within the first 2 minutes of her first voiceover, she's talking about her mother as Mrs. Flax, and you it just sets a tone for the way this movie's going to go, and the interaction she has with her daughters. She's the free-spirited hippie type that I think she tries to keep her life fun and enjoyable, and I think that's why the movie's fun and enjoyable. She's having a good time, and like you said, there are some serious points, but I think overall the movie is fun. So yeah, and it's like a lot of movies, it kind of wraps it up at the end in a mostly happy vein. It's not, the boy moves away, and so she's a little sad that he's not there, but they write still. It wraps everything up nicely. Right. Nothing is. It's not a Shakespearean tragedy by any sense of So by the end, all the conflict is mostly resolved. It's, there's some things left unresolved that I think if the movie was made today, they would have dug deeper into. But at an hour 50, I'm not sure.
If it was made today, you wouldn't have a 26-year-old hooking up, for lack of a better term, with a 16-year-old.
Oh, wow. That depends. If you watch certain cable channels, you might see all sorts of that stuff. That's
I guess so.
There is some stuff, man, but whatever.
But not in a PG-13 family film.
Well, you would say that, except have you seen some? I don't want to call out a network by name.
Okay.
I
guess I haven't.
There is some stuff that borders on, I just don't know, man.
Okay.
But I agree. I agree that the format would be quite different. And that's one of the things in particular. They don't really deal with that. I mean, the most they talk about it is the whole town knows what you were doing. And I think that's it. I think that's all that's said about that whole moment. Which, that wouldn't happen today. And that may be one of the weaker parts of the film. I don't know if we've talked about it on this podcast yet or not, but the most recent Star Wars film had a kiss in it that maybe I thought didn't need to be there.
Yeah, we talked about that.
I don't know that the movie needed that scene with them. Like, they could have just snuck away.
Which one? You mean whether
they could have just snuck away and made out? And I think the same.
Oh, okay. You mean her with? You mean Charlotte with Joe?
Right. So I'm saying like they went too far with it, just like Star Wars did. Like, they didn't have to go that far. They could get just as distracted. Because that, and I hate to use these words to describe that scene, but because that scene didn't pay off anywhere else, I don't know that it needed to be there.
Yeah.
And as you point out, 26 and 16, that's a little something maybe, didn't need to have it anyway.
Right. Well, and I know you said that it doesn't pay off anywhere, but that scene, and maybe watching it now, because I think this is the first time I've watched this movie as an adult. So there were clearly some things that I thought of differently watching this movie than I had many years ago. But the part I kind of caught with that whole part of the movie was that she had been struggling with she's growing up in a Jewish family, but she's obsessed with Catholicism, and she wants to be a nun, and she thinks that she's going to be the next Virgin Mary, and all this other stuff. And that the moment that she kind of gives in to all the temptation and everything else is also the moment that one of the most traumatic events of her life happens. And that maybe that's the turning point that kind of knocked her out of her obsession. So I don't know that it pays off in other ways, but as a both, well, I guess in a lot of different ways, it's a very memorable evening for her.
Sure.
So in both good and bad ways. But yeah. So is there a scene in the movie that you kind of look at and you say, the reason why I enjoy this movie, the reason why this movie makes me happy, or I like this movie, I could take a look at one scene and say, it's just that scene had the qualities that helped me enjoy this movie?
Unfortunately, it's at the end. The end scene, I think, points it out, but there's more scenes like that. It's when the three female leads are together being a family and just doing family things. And at the end, they're singing and cooking and setting the table and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that that interaction, I think, and the way the three of them are a family in all their dysfunction that I think I enjoy. Yeah. Like the whole the whole family dynamic with them. The scene I'm picturing is them dancing at the end, but I feel like there's other goofy things that those three actresses do together. That's good. I mean, the interaction between Charlotte and Mrs. Flax is great throughout the whole thing. Like the quote I love, and we usually do quotes later in the thing, but it's I don't want to go, I want to stay. Do what? Finish high school. Great start. What's your major? Town tramp? No, Mom, the town already has one. Like, just the fact that they can have that and then move on from it, really, just makes it an enjoyable experience.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, if you want the tongue-in-cheek humor that they're going for a lot of the time, the whole scene in the gynecologist office is priceless.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, has your mother ever talked to you about sex? I mean,
Joan Arc.
That was that was outstanding. Oh God, I think I might be pregnant with the next Jewish Italian Messiah.
Yeah.
So okay, back to it not paying off. Like, so she freaks out because they kiss. She goes to the gynecologist. She finds out she's crazy. Then she actually does the deed. Doesn't think about it once.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe a minute could have been spent with it. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
A little something for the effort, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
But I still enjoyed it. Like I said, I'm we talk about these things and I sound nitpicky, but
yeah.
So yeah, it's the interaction between them.
Yeah.
What does it like? What's the scene you? So you said you'd seen this a lot before, so you knew what you were walking into. Before you rewatched it, when someone says mermaids, what are you picturing?
Well, as partly as a kid who, when I was little, I actually almost drowned. And so I was I was terrified of the water. My parents tried to put me in swimming lessons for years and years and years, and they just did not take at all. And so memorable, it's when Kate falls into the water towards the end of the movie. Like that as a kid, that just terrified me because that, I was only about 4.
Was it for you at that point, all kinds of water, like whether it was a pool and you could see the bottom or?
I didn't mind swimming pools. I mean, I had an aunt who had a swimming pool at her house and we'd go swim there. There would be no way you'd ever get me in the deep end of the pool. Not a chance. And then, when I would take swimming lessons as a kid, they would make you try to swim across the deep end of the pool. And I just did not want to have anything to do with that and didn't want to put my face underwater. And so I was fine with that kind of stuff. I mean, especially as long as I could see towards the bottom and if I could feel the bottom, that was much better. But yeah, so like growing up, I don't recall ever going swimming in like a lake or a river or anything like that. It would have always been a pool, and it would have always been like, my parents never had to warn me to stay out of the deep end. There was no way I was going that way.
Okay.
So, I mean, in terms of memorable, I remember, that moment in the movie is just kind of seared in my brain as watching that as a kid going, I don't know how I feel about this. Like that's a little too close to home. But in terms of, if you say the word mermaids, if you say, 1990 movie Mermaids, I think some of the first things that I kind of pick out are the interactions with Cher and Bob Hoskins.
He was good.
Oh yeah.
You forget because you don't see him a lot, obviously recently, but you know what I mean? Like,
well, right. Well, we don't see him a lot. I don't feel like we've seen him a lot in the 80s, like up to this point in the podcast, but I feel like once you hit the 90s, like once he did, and I can't remember right before that, but once he did Who Framed Roger Rabbit, then I feel like there's a whole slew of things that I saw him in the 90s with Mario Brothers, Hook, just thinking of all those different movies. But yeah, I feel like we kind of didn't see him much necessarily in maybe the movies we would have watched from the 80s.
Right.
And so far in the podcast, but yeah, I everything I've ever seen him in, I would like.
I know he has a lot of fun in this one too.
He's and sometimes as a kid, I used to get him confused with Danny DeVito.
Oh, I can see that, sure.
And so I always, now as an adult, I'm like, well, maybe I just think of him as a little bit more likable Danny DeVito. Like if I was going to go have coffee with, I don't drink coffee, but if I was going to go, have a cup of tea or something with either one of them, I probably would choose. Well, I'd choose Danny DeVito now because Bob Hoskins not so much here anymore. But,
right, but no, I know what you mean.
I'd choose if he was alive, I would choose Bob Hoskins over Danny DeVito.
Oh, see, I was thinking Bob Hoskins would be great to have a drink with.
Well, that too, right? It doesn't matter what the beverage is, but yeah. I feel like if you have a drink with Danny DeVito, somebody's getting into trouble.
Yeah, probably everybody.
Yeah. So moments like that, I think the moments like that, the moments, most of the moments in the kitchen, like as you get to any of the scenes in the kitchen, really when they're preparing the food, and I just the marshmallow kabobs and all that other stuff.
Yes.
And,
the mom's obsession with all the food being like finger food or hors d'oeuvres.
Right. So yeah, just in terms of, I think the scenes that would sum it up for me would be those scenes, would be the ones, interactions with her and Bob Hoskins. And I think
the scene in the bed with the two of them is hysterical. You don't have to sound so surprised, but I am surprised.
Right. I am surprised. I think in terms of the fight that they get into, you referenced the line, what job are you going for? Town tramp? No, Mom, the town already has one. I think that either that's a very memorable scene, or it was actually in the movie trailer, and I somehow remember the movie trailer.
Oh, that could be.
Because that is definitely a line that is, when I think of this movie, that's like one of the first lines I think of from this movie, is that scene where they're fighting it out.
Yeah, the only thing I could have told you about this movie before I watched it this time that I would have told you for sure would have been Cher's on the box, like the video box, because I can see her hair and the whole getup on the box.
We did appreciate after they kind of had a little bit of a shouting match that when Cher walks back in the room and very calmly kind of walks in, closes the door, and she goes, "Okay, I've had a little scotch. I'm real calm." Like, yep,
I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Scotch, calm, yes.
Yep. And I think watching it this time as an adult and catching some of the other kind of the relationship stuff, I really liked because it used to be when I'd watch it, I think I kind of keyed in on the relationship between the mom and the kids. And of course, Christina Ricci is hilarious.
Yes, she is. Oh my gosh.
Little fish head is hilarious in this movie. And just kind of all those interactions. But this time around, what really caught my attention was the interactions between Lou and Mrs. Flax, and kind of all of those and everything that he was doing, just as a genuinely nice guy. Like he didn't really have any, in a way he did, but he didn't really have any like corrupt motives or anything like that.
Yeah. He wasn't
genuinely liked these people.
Exactly. He wasn't there to be the nasty new person in their life. He was just there to be there.
Right. And he could probably tell that their family could use a little stability. And that's kind of what he brought. And I that one scene in particular is, I did not remember it from before, but I did like it this time, that when he fixes the meal and they all sit down together at the table, when he makes that comment one time when they're all like, staggered, sitting in different spots in the kitchen on the counter and everything else. It's like, wait, this is how you people eat?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, so. And then when he has them sit down at the table and all of a sudden her girls, particularly Charlotte, who won't say a word, and everybody's just talking. And it's just, they almost won't stop talking. And you can see her getting uneasy about it.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, what's going on? And he's like, this is what happens when people sit down around a table. They talk. And I think that's what makes kind of the end of the movie interesting too, is that the characters, while they have grown up a little bit, particularly Charlotte, in more ways than one, while they have grown up, because this is kind of a coming of age story, the core of what makes them has not necessarily changed.
Right. She's still,
it's not like all of a sudden they decide to get married and everything else. And,
right.
He hasn't moved in with them. They still are kind of doing what they do, but they're just doing it a little bit better than they were before.
Right. She, little fish head, still little fish head. And...
Right. So you end the story like they've gone through this ordeal, over the course of the last few months. So you end the story and it has, kind of like you said before, it's got a happy ending. Like, no one has died. No one has been devastated by any of this. They've learned a few things and now they are continuing on with their lives better for what they've gone through.
How much time do you think passes from the beginning to the end of this movie? Is it like a year in the life sort of thing?
I'd say it probably is a year.
Kind of feels that way, right?
If I had to guess, I say it probably is a year, because you start the movie and they are in, are they in Arizona? Where are they at? No, they're in Oklahoma, aren't they?
Yeah, something like that.
Or they're leaving Oklahoma, they're driving through Oklahoma at one point. Either way, they start in the one place and then they make their move, and then you kind of go through, she starts school, you see Halloween, you see New Year's, and then I think they mention that it's been a few months. Does she say it's been 6 months when she talks about riding back and forth with Joe?
Sounds right.
So it might be that it's about 6 months. So I would imagine it's probably about a year. You've probably gone from either summer to summer or fall to summer.
Mm-hmm.
So I would imagine you probably started in like fall of 1963 and you ended in summer of 1964 would be my guess.
I could buy that.
So yeah, I don't think you're looking at much more than a year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, overall, fun movie. I really like this movie. And I forgot how much I like this movie. Sharon had mentioned that this is one that she feels like she doesn't remember having ever seen this, but she's like, this is totally the kind of movie that my grandma would have watched and loved. That they were always real big fans of, some of the movies where you've got your quirkier families or things like that. And they always loved movies like My Cousin Vinny and Benny and June and, some of that stuff. And she's like, no, this would have totally been something that my grandma would have liked. But she doesn't remember ever watching it. So I think she had fun watching it too.
And way to go 1990 for having some strong female roles. And
right.
There might be some serious Bechdel test wins in this movie. I didn't track any down, but I got a hunch there are a few scenes where no man is mentioned or seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I'm right. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I had pulled that test out at one point in time. I was like, you know what, when we go through some of our movies, we should do this once or twice, just to kind of go through it and see. And I have not up to this point. So I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah. It's kind of a fun little thing.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if anyone's done it for Mermaids. I'm doing a quick
I don't know.
Google search just to see. Oh, yeah. There's a whole website. Look at this. Passed 3 of 3 tests. Mermaid stars 3.
Nice.
Yeah, this website's a little cheesy, but interesting. Yeah, it just seems like, as I was watching, I was like, wow, look at that. Like, that's the kind of movie everybody's talking about making now.
Mm-hmm.
And look,
right. Well, and especially as we were watching this round about the time of the Oscars, and of course you've got all the talk, within the last many years of, well, you don't have a whole lot of women filmmakers. You don't have a whole lot of necessarily strong, female. I don't want to say strong female performances. You got a ton of those. But in terms of movies kind of directed by and helmed by women, I think that's been a criticism of the Oscars for at least the last several years, if not further beyond that. But I thought about that when we were watching it this time. Now, this is the Bechdel test. I know has more to it than this, and I think I'm looking at the same site you are. This seems like a very simplified version.
Yeah, it is.
Of that, the 1, 2, 3 that it's got on here. It has to have at least 2 named women in it number 2 who talk to each other. Number 3 about something besides a man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a very simplified version of it, but yeah.
But I'm sure there are significant passages of time in this movie that hit the criteria.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I was thinking about that too. This is totally a movie. You could take this movie and you could absolutely remake it today and probably not have to change too much about it.
Yeah, except the one scene we've already discussed might get booted.
Right. That's that little thing.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Like I said, I wonder if it needed to be there, but
yeah.
But at the same time, like, it didn't ruin the movie for me
at
all. Like, I'm not saying that. I just.
All right. Well, should we jump into our 3 questions?
Sure.
All right. Let's do it. 3 questions.
He asks each traveler 5 questions. 3 questions. 3 questions.
It's impossible to answer.
Impossible because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. And I want to have them answered immediately.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
John's first question, for those of us listening, he's asking what our favorite hors d'oeuvre is. Now,
and you could do appetizer, hors d'oeuvre, finger food, however you want to do that.
That's just mean. I mean, those of you that don't see pictures of us all that often, and God willing, none of you do. Food's kind of important to us.
Oh yeah.
So this question is mean, but I think I'll probably hit the highlights. And it's one of the reasons I think I enjoy this so much is I don't get it very often. My favorite appetizer out at a fancy Greek place is saganaki. Melted cheese. When they bring it to your table, they light it on fire and they give you this bread, and the cheese is just good, and it's so good. But like, if you're just talking about simple, I'm a pretty simple finger food guy. Like when we're hosting something, I give me shrimp and cocktail sauce. Like I'm pretty simple when I'm putting it together myself. But I'm telling you, out of the Greek restaurant, give me some saganaki, and I'm a happy man.
Well, I'm a man of simple tastes. Anything that's small and I can throw in my mouth multiple times is probably good for me. But I'm a chicken wing person. I really love a good chicken wing.
I really like bad chicken wing.
Pretty much, if it's, as long as they call it a chicken wing, I don't know that I really care what it is.
It is drenched in sauce. Yes. Okay.
Yep. So I'm good with that. I mean, I was trying to think, should I expand any of my choices beyond this? And probably not.
No need. The classic multifaceted chicken wing.
Now I would say, right. Now I will say there are a couple of other things that of course, over the years I've, tried some different stuff as well. And one of the things that usually we kind of would get sometimes as an appetizer, if we go to a seafood place, or even sometimes, the Italian places, be a good calamari.
Yes.
Would be that would be good.
All right.
That would
So
be
you mentioned calamari, so I have to ask. I like calamari, but I am not a huge fan of the tentacles. I like the rings. Just not a tentacle guy. Where do you fall on the?
I think I've mostly had the rings. Now I have had octopus at a Japanese restaurant.
Sure.
And I was fine with that. I didn't have a problem with it.
Yeah, there's a place over here by us that does, when you order calamari, you get the tentacles and the rings, and it's nice to go out with family because I don't feel bad that I won't eat the tentacles.
Somebody else eat the tentacles.
Somebody else will.
Yeah. Where is that you go that you get those?
Crossroads, right out here.
Oh, okay.
Have you ever had their mozzarella sticks?
No.
Oh, we'll have to go sometime.
Okay.
It's worth the trip.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the 30-something movie podcast.
Right.
Bo and I have places to go tonight, so we're going to cut the recording short. It's been 1 questions this time around. You know what I did this last time at our Super Bowl party that we had was I decided, you know what, let's just get weird. And I made a bunch of hard-boiled eggs.
Mm-hmm.
And I filled some of them with guacamole.
Wait.
I
hard-boiled egg.
Yeah.
And you filled. So talk to me about.
Well,
this.
like a deviled egg.
Okay, got it.
But not completely deviled. It was just I hollowed out the egg white. So I did the hard-boiled egg.
Sure.
Peeled it, and then I hollowed out the egg white. I put guacamole in it.
Okay.
I hollowed out the yolk, not the egg white. And then put guacamole in it. So there was that. There were some I left as they were because it was actually pretty good.
I've often tried to get Donna because Donna makes deviled eggs when we host holidays. I want her to do it. The problem is her sister and her sister's kids love deviled eggs. So I think Donna's afraid to mess with them.
Okay.
I want her to do the traditional deviled egg, but just mix a little guacamole in with the egg yolk. To give it something else. We haven't tried that yet. We got to do that.
Yeah. I actually took out the whole yolk and put guacamole in.
Oh, that sounds fantastic too. Don't get me wrong.
It was good.
Guacamole added to anything makes it better. So.
Okay, so now here's where I kind of weirded everybody out.
Uh-oh.
So this is where I took that same concept, and I'm going to blow your mind here, and I'm going to tell you, it was really good. Now, I may have been the only person who thought it was really good, but it was really good.
Hey, you're part of your rules, man.
I can do whatever I want. So
none
of my teams are in the Super Bowl. Right. None of my teams are in the Super Bowl. I don't care. I'm going to make whatever food I feel like making.
Mm-hmm.
So I had some eggs that I had just, I'd left some so that we could just do like a little salt and pepper. I had some that I had replaced the yolk with the guacamole.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other ones I had taken out. I had, again, scooped out the yolk.
Sure.
And in its place, peanut butter.
Peanut butter and egg whites.
Yeah.
Huh. I can't. My brain
really
can't
good.
quite put that together, but it doesn't sound terrible.
The flavor, and maybe I'm crazy, but the flavor was really good.
You're crazy. It's just a question.
Well, it's true. It's true.
But I may have to give that a go. So
you may have to try it sometime.
Usually when we make deviled eggs, there's usually 1 or 2 extra egg whites when it's all said and done. So.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, give it a try because some of the other family members tried it. They were like, "Huh, I'm not sure." And the kids tried it, and one of them was like, "This is pretty good." Yeah, they did. Nora was like, "I don't know."
Yeah, I was gonna say John Ezra thought it was cool. Nora, not so much.
Yeah. I don't know if he really liked it. I think mostly he just thought, "Wow, my dad made something weird. I'm going to throw something weird in my mouth."
That's true. He is a boy,
right?
And at that age where he will just, that's fair.
Yeah, we're full on 7th grader with him.
Yeah,
so
you could probably get him to eat a bug right now if you presented it properly.
See, now that you said that, he listens to the podcast, and now that you've said that, he is going to go eat a bug and he's going to prove it to me. So thanks a lot.
Sorry about that. Well, hey, you have master editing control. You can clean that up if you feel like it.
I don't have time to edit that out. We're just going to do this instead. John, you are not allowed to eat a bug. And if you do, just make sure it's not something that's poison or that I have to take you to the hospital for.
There you go.
Okay. Bases are covered. There we go. All right. Well, I think we've covered the food stuff.
I was going to say the 30-something food podcast. We could go for hours.
Right. I mean, pretty much. Yeah. I did want to jump over really fast to Twitter because we did have a few of our friends on Twitter did respond to our 3 questions. So let me pull that up real quickly here.
For all the people in the background that are chuckling, saying, "You guys have friends?" Yes, we do.
We do. Yes. It's primarily our Oklahoma contingent that listens in. So
and the Oklahoma podcast.
Surely you can't be serious. Twitter decided to freeze up on me here, so let's try something different.
And now
for something completely different. Did I tell you while I'm pulling this up here? Did I tell you that I started to introduce the boy to Holy Grail?
Oh, that's a wonderful moment.
Yeah. The kids were arguing something the other day related to logic, and I said, I have a clip to play for you. And it was the prove that she's a witch clip.
Yes.
And yeah, it was all the good things I hoped it would have been.
And they ate Robin's minstrel, and there was great rejoicing in the land.
How do you know she is a witch? Oh, she turned me into a newt.
Well, I got better.
Got better. And what do you burn apart from witches? More witches. Tristan Martin, at Tristan Martin on Twitter. He just put up a GIF of Seinfeld, and he says, salsa is now the #1 condiment in America.
That's awesome.
So I'm going to go with salsa for his answer. And then we had another one. Let's see. It was
this one is good.
James D. Graves.
Yes.
Is it his? The bacon wraps?
Yeah, that is a good one. He's not wrong.
Yeah, bacon wraps, water chestnuts wrapped in bacon and baked in a sauce made from ketchup and brown sugar.
Really, anything wrapped in bacon. I mean,
all you have to say is bacon.
Yeah,
I mean,
pretty much.
You don't need anything other than that. Now that I've blown your mind with the peanut butter eggs, have I told you that Sharon, the very first time she fixed this for me, I was like, what weird concoction is this? But it is now one of my favorite things whenever they're just like, I don't really feel like eating anything else. Peanut butter and bacon sandwiches. It's really good.
I can see that working. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you got you got to do the creamy peanut butter because then you got the crunch in the bacon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The peanuts with the bacon might be weird.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good stuff. It's all kinds of good stuff. All right. We're going to talk food all night if we stay here.
Yeah.
So let's go to question number 2. Favorite Cher song.
So do Sonny and Cher songs count?
Yeah, go for it. Because that's probably what my answer is too.
Okay. I wonder if it's the same one. Classic. I Got You, Babe.
Yeah.
I something about that song. I looked at all the Cher songs a couple times. I was like, oh, that one's okay. That one's okay. But no, I Got You, Babe.
Mm-hmm.
First thing I thought of when I read it, hands down.
Yeah. Yeah. It was either going to be that one or it was going to be If I Could Turn Back Time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was the second one.
On Twitter, that was Jason Colvin's. That was his response. And then James D. Graves, both of those guys, the co-hosts of the Surely Can't Be Serious podcast, his response was Bang Bang, My Baby Shot Me Down.
Which I don't know if I know. I have to.
I don't know that I know that one very well. I'm not. I fully admit that I'm not well versed on Cher's discography. So.
Me neither. And those of you in the audience, raise your hand if every time you hear If I Can Turn Back Time, the next thing your brain thinks of is Jack from Will and Grace doing his impression of Cher, doing If I Could Turn Back Time for Cher on the episode Cher was on. My hand is up because I can't help myself.
All right. And question number 3. Kate, played by Christina Ricci, is given her first drink of wine by her big sister. When did you have your first drink?
Well, I am almost guaranteeing I probably had sips of my father's beer at a far too young age.
Okay.
Just because that was what we did in the 80s. Mm-hmm. But the first drink I can recall, gosh, I might have been 20.
Okay.
And it was not quite Bartles and James, but it was.
It wasn't the really horrible Prairie Fire I ordered for you, was it?
No. I knew what the drinking was then, and I still let you order that. Which
that was not my fault.
Which speaks to my level of judgment at the time.
That's not my fault.
How's it not your? How is it not your fault?
That's why I'm gonna invoke the Lando Calrissian clause with this one. It's not my fault.
Yeah. No, it was it wasn't Bartles and James. It was something else. I was hanging out with some lovely ladies, and they were drinking.
As you do.
Arbor Mist. That's what it was. I've been trying to come up with it for a few days, and seeing the Bartles and James in the Twitter feed got my brain kicking. Arbor Mist. It was a weird fruity wine similar to Bartles and James, or dare I say, Boone's Farm.
Yep.
And yours. I am intrigued for this one.
I was going to ask, is Arbor Mist still around?
I don't know. You know what? I will Google that as you you speak, because I don't know. Yeah. I certainly spend enough time in the adult beverage aisle to know, and I haven't seen it. But wow, the Google search turned it up. Sure enough.
Okay. Huh.
You can get I mean, these are the flavors: mango, strawberry, blackberry, Merlot. I mean, this is what I'm talking about here.
Okay. Yeah.
It is the lowest common denominator of insanity. Sure enough, you can get it at Walmart, my friend.
There we go.
Only the oh God, this one we actually drank back then. I recognize the bottle.
Which one?
It is. Hold please. Arbor Mist Peach Moscato Fruit Wine.
Okay.
$7 for a 1.5 liter bottle these days. And 20 years ago, it was probably less than that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Keeping it classy, Libertyville.
Mm-hmm. That was like what was the brand of wine that, like, when we didn't have a whole lot of money and you just wanted to go get a bottle of wine from somewhere. What was it? Is it Rex Goliath?
Oh, that doesn't ring a bell at
It has
all.
it has like a rooster on the.
Well, now,
yeah, I think it has a rooster on the label.
That because
Mhm.
I am intrigued. Rex
And I think
Goliath
it's like,
wines.
there we
Bold
go.
wine, fun time is their catchphrase.
Yep.
Holy
I think it's.
buckets.
I have a feeling that it's like a whopping like $3.50 a bottle.
Ooh, they have all sorts of flavors too. They have
they do.
Chardonnay, Pinot Grigio, Sauvignon Blanc, and in case you were concerned, a free range white.
Oh, free range white. Oh, good. I was worried.
Holy.
Cage free.
Sure. Why not?
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's, whatever.
With notes of tangy tangerine, tropical melon, and floral hints.
Yep.
Wow. That is awesome.
So if you want something that you can drink directly out of that paper bag.
Oh my.
I actually think that was probably like the highest. I think that was the highest recommended wine at the CVS. I think was where that was picked up at. So it's, and I'm not, I kid, but
$6
it's
a bottle.
not that $6. Oh, it's gone up.
$9, almost $10 if you go for the big bottles.
Wow.
Oh, here's a $5 from Instacart.
Okay, I was gonna say those are not like Walgreens CVS prices.
Walmart, Target.
There you go. Okay.
Target, Instacart, Walmart.
There we go.
Oh wow. There is part of me that wants to go get a bottle of Arbor Mist and a bottle of Rex Goliath, and
there we go. And actually, I did. I jokingly one time. I think I just used my phone, and I think I had iMovie on my computer. And my mom used to have this kind of big ceramic or porcelain, whatever it was, kind of a statue of a rooster in her kitchen.
Oh my gosh, my aunt had one of those too. That's crazy.
Did she really? Okay. And so I remember we got to joking about something, I think, when we were at their house in Missouri one time. And I think we'd gone out and got a bottle of the Rex Goliath wine. And just the fact that the rooster is named Rex or whatever, I guess the rooster's name is supposed to be. So I took some video of my mom's rooster statue that she had in her kitchen, and then I think I took some video of just like the front of the bottle, and then I took all that and I edited it together into this really intense short film that had
starring
Mozart in the background, right? And it had Mozart in the background. I think it was the they like keep repeating the word Rex over and over again in the Mozart music. And it was hilarious. I wish I still had it, but
that's too funny.
Yeah, I think that's the only short film that's ever been created that was specifically about Rex Goliath wine.
That's outstanding. You should have sold it to him.
I'll check IMDb for it, but all that to say, I now digress, as we tend to do. The first drink, if I can remember the first drink I ever had. Now, I do remember, I think both of my first drinks came in the British Isles. I remember going to a Mexican restaurant in Leicester Square with my family one time in England, and my dad had ordered some type of Bohemian beer, and he gave me a little sip of it. I was probably about 11 at the time, maybe 12, and he gave me a sip of it, and I think he expected it to taste really gross to me, and I think I took a sip. I was like, oh, that just tastes like Sprite. He's like, oh, okay, let me have the rest of that back.
This boy's gonna be trouble.
Yeah. The other time that, and I may have told this story before on the podcast, but the other time that I remember a little bit more vividly was when we were up in Edinburgh, and we went on the tour. You kind of got this tram ride tour of the Scotch Whiskey Museum in Edinburgh.
Nice.
And my dad liked it so much. I think we went on this tour every time we went to Edinburgh.
Hey, see something you like, do it.
Well, and it didn't hurt. They gave you a free sample at the end of the tour.
I'm sure that helped a little.
Well, I know. So we're on this tram and we go around, we're on the tour, you get to see the whole place. And then you get to the end and they do hand you, as you're kind of going by, they hand you a little shot glass of the scotch that they make there. And of course they handed some to my dad, they handed some to my mom. And the one time that we went, we were there with my grandparents. They had come over from Missouri and they were Southern Baptists, so they don't drink at all. And I think my grandfather just turned down. He's like, no, thank you. My grandmother, for some reason, took the shot glass and she sat with it for a moment and she realized, well, wait a minute, I'm Southern Baptist. I can't drink this. So she hands it to her 12-year-old grandson and says, here, you take this. And I looked at it and I went, all right.
Sure.
And I downed the thing and I was completely convinced that I was never going to not be hot ever again in my life.
That's outstanding.
It burned all the way down and I stayed warm probably for the next 3 days.
Sure.
And I already tend to run hot a little bit anyway. And I think I just remember, like, I feel so warm. I can't stop feeling warm. What's wrong with me? That was the first drink that I remember having was a shot of Scotch whiskey from Edinburgh.
That's awesome.
Let's see. I'm going to jump into the Twitters here. James D. Graves said, Bartles and James wine cooler at a party with my older brother. And see, Jason Colvin said he had his at a resort in Mexico. He said he asked for a virgin banana daiquiri, but got something that tasted strangely hot. Now, we've probably told this story on the podcast too. I will again apologize profusely for ordering a drink for you when you and I were out at a bar one time, and it was not made to the specifications it should have been made.
Yeah, that was.
And again, I will invoke the Lando Calrissian clause of "It's not my fault."
It's not my fault. Yeah.
I completely thought the bartender would know how to make that thing, and I think he just reversed the ratio of Tabasco sauce to tequila.
He did something horrible.
Something horrible.
That's what I know.
I think we're good with the Mermaids. So if you got anything you want to say about Mermaids, feel free to reach out to us either through our voicemail line, email, Twitter, whatever you want to do. We'll be around. We'll be listening. But in the meantime, what do we got coming up next? We've got, over the course of the next few weeks, actually, this is the final episode in our Love is in the Air month, and kind of our month of love stories and romantic comedies. Next month, we move into our Planes and Automobiles month. We've got Air America is coming up next, Memphis Belle after that one, Days of Thunder, and then Cadillac Man. And then if you want to get ahead, starting in April, we've got our Action and Adventure month. That is Dances with Wolves, The Hunt for Red October, Navy SEALs, and Rocky V. So that's what we got coming up over the next couple months. And then kind of after that, I think by the time we get to the end of May, we may be hitting our 300th episode. So there will be all kinds of good stuff coming. All right. Well, that's going to do it for tonight. So thank you both for being here with me.
Thank you, John.
All right. We'll see you all back here next time for Air America. Be excellent to each other. Go watch some good movies.